Picture this. A race car is absolutely screaming down the track at 200 miles an hour. Now, inside the cockpit, the driver feels like everything is perfect. To the fans in the stands, it's just this incredible blur of raw speed. But on the pit wall, a group of engineers is staring at their screens, and they've just seen a disaster coming from 2 miles away. So how on earth did they know? Well, let's break it down.
And then boom, that call comes crackling over the radio. The driver, he's probably confused, but he trusts the call and pulls into the pits. And right as he does, you can see it. The tire is literally seconds from completely falling apart. A catastrophe that could have ended the race, or worse, just completely averted.
And that right there, that is the billion-dollar question. It is not magic, it's data. It's something called the telemetry stream, this constant, secret conversation happening between the car and the team that the rest of us just can't hear. And in this explainer, we're going to decode that secret language.
So, to really get how the team can see into the future, we first need to understand how the car sees the present, and it does that through this incredibly complex network of sensors. Think of it as its own nervous system.
A modern race car is just packed with over 300 sensors. I mean, think about that. That's more than 300 different points of touch, sight, and hearing, all collecting thousands and thousands of data points every single second.
So what's all this stuff actually doing? Well, you've got infrared sensors acting like little thermal cameras, constantly checking the tire's temperature. If the middle is way hotter than the edges, that's a dead giveaway for overinflation. Then you've got these tiny devices called transducers in the engine that can literally feel the thickness of the oil, and others, called potentiometers on the suspension, measuring every single little movement, telling the team exactly how the car squats when it accelerates and leans into the corners. Each sensor tells one tiny piece of a much, much bigger story. All of that information gets funneled into one central unit, it gets encrypted, and then it's blasted out from a microwave antenna. This is the stream, an invisible, high-speed river of data that's just constantly flowing from that car to the pit wall.
Okay, so the car is talking. But who's actually listening? For that, we've got to head to the pit wall and into the factory's war room, which is where these engineers translate that stream of numbers into a winning strategy.
In here, the race engineer and the strategist, they're not just watching the car on a TV screen like we are. Nope. They are glued to screens filled with graphs and charts, what they just call the squiggly lines. This is where the race is truly being read.
So how do they make sense of it all? Well, the crucial part is comparison. They overlay the real-time data from the lap the car is driving right now on top of a simulation of the perfect theoretical lap. So if the brake temperature on the current lap is trending just 5% higher than the ideal, they know instantly the driver's pushing a little too hard. It is all about spotting those tiny little deviations.
But here's the thing, they're not just looking at the present moment. They're tracking degradation, which is really just the rate at which things are getting worse. By calculating how quickly that tire grip is fading away, lap after lap, they can actually predict the exact moment a car is about to become dangerously slow, or what the drivers call undrivable.
And this is where it goes from being just clever analysis to something that feels like straight-up science fiction. They can literally see the future of the race. But how in the world do they turn a few squiggly lines into a crystal ball?
This is where we enter the wild world of predictive modeling. It's where teams don't just react to the race, they simulate every single possible outcome, and they do it in real time.
The tool they use for this magic trick is called a Monte Carlo Simulation. Now, it's a powerful computational model, and yeah, it's named after the famous casino, because it's all about playing out the odds. It can run through the entire future of the race, over and over and over again in the blink of an eye.
So let's just walk through how this works, okay? First, the system just drinks in all that live data from the telemetry stream. Then, and this is the wild part, it runs over 100,000 different simulations of how the rest of the race could unfold. It's factoring in countless variables, tire wear on every single other car, the chance of rain, even the statistical likelihood of a crash happening at a particular corner. The output isn't one singular answer, it's a set of probabilities for all the best strategies.
So what the engineer sees is basically a menu of strategic options, each with crystal clear odds. So, do you take the safe bet for a podium finish by pitting on lap 40? Or do you risk it all on lap 42 for a shot at the win, knowing full well there's a 1 in 5 chance of a catastrophic tire failure?
And that is the key takeaway here. The telemetry stream, when you combine it with these incredible simulations, it just takes the guesswork right out of race strategy. It transforms what used to be a gut feeling into a cold, hard, calculated statistical decision.
Okay, so
If the computers are so smart, you might be wondering, why do we even need the engineers? Well, it's because data, as powerful as it is, lacks one absolutely crucial thing: context.
Just look at this scenario. A sensor shows a little drop in tire pressure. The data just says, pressure is down. An engineer, though, has to ask why. Is it a slow, dangerous puncture that could lead to a huge crash? Or did the driver just go a little off the racing line and pick up some rubber marbles, which can temporarily confuse the sensor? And to get that context, they need what's called audio telemetry. And that's just a fancy term for the driver's voice, their description of what the car feels like. See, the data tells you what the car is doing. The driver tells you what it all means.
So when that box call finally comes through, it isn't just a computer's command spitting out an order. It's a final decision. It's a handshake between this massive billion-dollar data stream and the intuition and hard-won experience of a human being.
And really, that brings us to the ultimate point. There are two races happening on any given Sunday. There's the one you see on the track, and then there's the invisible one happening in the airwaves.
So every single time you see a car pull in for that perfectly timed, incredible 2-second pit stop, just remember this: that decision wasn't made in the heat of the moment. No way. It was probably made miles ago, calculated by hundreds of sensors, processed by supercomputers, and finally confirmed by an expert's intuition.
Because at the absolute pinnacle of motorsport, this is the fundamental truth. It is not just about having the fastest car anymore. It's about having the smartest conversation between the car, the driver, and the pit wall. Which, it leaves us with one final thought. We've peeled back the curtain on data and telemetry. But what other invisible forces, what other unseen battles of strategy and technology are really deciding who stands on top of that podium at the end of the day?